if I had
I was
that.
like, I want to see
Microphone's working.
Good evening. I'd like to call the October 15th, 2024 Borough Council meeting to order. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, specifying the time, date, and location by posting a copy of the notice on the municipal building, municipal website, and providing a copy of the annual notice scheduled to the official newspaper of the borough, and is on file in the clerk's office.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Here.
Councilman Collins.
Here.
Councilman Manco.
Here.
Councilman Poznanski.
Here.
Councilman Potter.
Here.
Councilman Zambrana.
Here.
Mayor Murray.
Present.
Borough Attorney Peter Vignolo.
Present.
Borough Engineer Mike McClellan.
Present.
Borough Administrator Fred Carr.
Present.
Borough Clerk Monica Orlando, present.
Okay, will everyone please stand for a moment of silence, which will be followed by the salute of the flag. Now's the time for public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. We have meeting minutes for the September.
Closed session
Oh,
personnel.
that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot.
No worries.
Resolution, will the clerk please read Resolution 2024-271?
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss personnel, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires that confidentiality, then the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Middletown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the public be excluded from this meeting.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Potter, seconded by Councilman Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Manco.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
And just for the record, Mr. Mayor, the council may take action following this executive session.
Okay, we may take action following this.
There may be action taken.
There may be
following-
action.
Okay.
We'll be back in 5 minutes, hopefully.
No, we're going to go to the other room. You guys. The round room? Yep. Yeah, we're going to go.
We're going.
We're 88 compliant in this building, you all right there?
We are back at 7.
He's not ready yet. All right.
We are back at 7:13. So we could read this resolution now.
I think,
Or do we wanna do it after?
Mr. Mayor, I think due to, from a practical perspective, numbering and your clerk trying to keep her agenda clean and neat and orderly, I think the request was that we would take action on that resolution following the
Separate.
consent agenda.
Okay.
Because those are already
Thank you.
numbered, is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Orlando?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now it's time for public comment limited to the resolutions on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Again, this public portion is limited to the comments only on the resolutions listed on the agenda at this time. Just a reminder, under the rules of council, individuals wish to speak during the public input part of the meeting shall be limited to 5 minutes. After other speakers have finished, may be allowed to speak for a second 5-minute period.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Ryan, 60 South Main Street. I have one question and a couple of quick points I'd like to make with regard to Resolution 2024-284. And my first question is for the borough attorney. I understand it says litigation, and therefore the discussion will be quite limited. But just a matter of time frame, I'm wondering if that resolution is for Ford Avenue redevelopment.
It is. I mean, technically, there's no obligation that we identify which litigation, but I see no issue with us.
Okay, so the question really is a matter of housekeeping for myself, what the timeline is to choose any option and forward that information back to Superior Court. There's a
Well,
time.
Currently, it's in federal court, so. it's not
Microphone,
Superior Court.
please.
Sorry. Currently, that matter is in federal court, and there is a judgment, and there are certain actions that need to be taken. I don't represent the borough actively in that litigation.
Okay.
Really, the agency is the plaintiff in that litigation. I
Okay.
represent the borough in a small capacity as a tax lien holder.
Okay.
And ultimately, if there's money paid and it proceeds, I'll fight over how much money we get to get back. That being said, I do see some of the things that are being filed, and I know there are extensions going forward. I believe there is a settlement conference that is scheduled to occur on Halloween. So
Got it.
currently, they're trying to see if there is a way to move forward with it, and that's where it is. And that's part of what's going to be discussed.
Thank you very much for that information. So with reference to that information, I'd like to say to Mayor and Council that some of you may have signed up for this and some of you may not have signed up for this, but there's a very distinct possibility that you're the last line of defense, as it were, as it pertains to development of Ford Avenue. And to that point, I would like to say that I would expect everybody to do their due diligence with regard to any negotiation you may have to take part in as far as that redevelopment. I would say, based on my own experiences, that you shouldn't be afraid of certain language, like payment in lieu of taxes. If that's what it takes to move a project forward, then that's what it takes. Hopefully, you'll be in a position where you can negotiate a fair deal for the developer, but also a fair deal for the residents of Milltown, and not give away the store. That's very important. Please don't lose sight of the fact that 25 years of work is behind this at this point. And as I've said a couple times before over different issues, I stand here willing to pay my part if it's the proper deal. So think about it. I ask about the timeline for that reason. There may be time for you to consider and maybe counter offer any offer you may have already have or one you will receive. But please, by all means, consider it deeply, and hopefully you'll do the best for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret O'Donnell, 89 Coutha Avenue. I see on our agenda tonight that you are accepting the retirements of two valued employees, Kathy Beardsley and Mike Kane. Big losses for the borough, and just wanted to acknowledge, since it's in the consent agenda and wouldn't be read separately, that I certainly personally appreciated their great work, and they will be missed.
Seeing no other, close audience comments. The meeting minutes for September 23rd, 2024 regular meeting are on the agenda for approval. Are there any comments or corrections?
Before you vote on them, I just wanted to say that our CFO, Joe, his title is incorrectly written down as BA of South River instead of CFO. It's just a minuscule change that we made in the minutes. That'll be reflected as you vote on them.
Are there any comments or corrections besides that? No? Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as typed?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion made by Council President Revlinsky, seconded by Councilman Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Meeting minutes for September 23rd, 2024 executive session are on the agenda for approval. Are there any comments or corrections? May I have a motion to accept the minutes as typed?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Council President Revlinsky, seconded by Councilman Potter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Authorizing payment of municipal obligations. Next on the agenda, we have authorized payments of municipal obligations. Will the clerk please read resolution by title?
Resolution 2024-272, authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Middletown in a total amount of $618,519.68.
You have heard the reading of this resolution. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I had a question on page 5 of Hyler, Gruel and Associates. They have a $1,113.75 for Christopher Street. Do you know what that's about?
Page 5, sir?
Yeah, page 5. I believe it's 5. Is that right? Let me see. Yeah, it's 5.
That's being charged to the escrow account for the Christopher Street application. So any review that he does, any reports that he types, we get a bill for. So that's not being charged to the borough. If you look, that's being charged to the escrow account for Christopher Street.
Okay, thanks.
What she said.
May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Council President Revlinsky, seconded by Councilman Potter. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revlinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Manco.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
A consent resolution has been prepared for the resolutions listed on the agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and have been reviewed by the Borough Council, will be enacted on in one motion. Any items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and if so removed, will be treated in a separate matter. Any items requiring expenditures are supported by a certification of funds. If any member of council wants any resolution acted upon individually, please give me the resolution number and it be pulled from the consent resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, 275.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, 279?
Same here.
283.
That's it? Okay. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda resolution? Minus 275, 279, 283.
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting upon certain conditions, and whereas each of the following resolutions to be presented before the Borough Council at its October 15, 2024 meeting appear to have the unanimous approval of all members of the Borough Council, 2024-274, 2024-276 through 278, 2024-281 through 282. Now therefore be resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown that each of the above listed resolutions be approved and adopted by the Borough Council with the same legal effect as though each was read in its entirety at the October 15, 2024 meeting and adopted by separate vote.
You heard the reading of the consent resolution. What's your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion made by Council President Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Potter. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Menko.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
Will the clerk please read Resolution 2024-275 by title?
2024-275, authorizing engineering services, DPW site remedial action, CME Associates, not to exceed $24,500.
What is your pleasure, council?
Move the resolution be adopted?
Motion made by Councilman Collins. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Potter. Any discussion, please?
Mr. McClellan, as this pertains to engineering services provided by CME, I was wondering if you could elaborate on the conditions over at 50 Washington Avenue, considering, as far as I know, which is stated in some of the backup documents here, 39 Washington has been cleaned up and finalized.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because it's kind of a win-win for Milltown. It may be 30 years ago, we pulled the tanks from Public Works on 39 Washington Avenue. And there was groundwater contamination from who knows where, but when the testing was done, one way of correcting it would be to do what's called pump and treat. The borough governing body at the time elected to go to what they call natural attenuation, and over the 30 years, testing has shown that the groundwater has cleared up. So the first part of this authorization is to go through and issue, really, without getting into DEP fancy terms, I'd say just the final wrap up and get it closed out. That's part of it. Second part is across the street at the new Public Works. So it was during construction and during the initial work there, contamination was found over there, and the rest of this is the authorization. The bulk of it is to go through and clean that up also. So when I say clean up, I mean basically submit the paperwork, necessary reports to go through and put that to bed also.
For natural attenuation.
No, the cleanup was done over there. So this is basically called the remedial action report to the DEP. Okay, now, I'd like to tell you that's going to end. I can never tell you that because it takes, there's an example, 30 years to get the one over here done. So we think it's going to be the end, but I just caution that there could be some more necessary studies. Bulk of this is really testing and drilling and things like that done sometimes, and testing results, so it's not necessarily engineering.
So we didn't close that out during the construction. Once we did the cleanup, the DEP doesn't send someone out to verify that everything's cleaned up accordingly and properly?
Remember, you hired an LSRP, which is called a licensed site remedial professional. They are really sort of, the best way to explain it, they're activated as an arm of the DEP. So it takes years sometimes to get these completed. So it's not as if it wasn't done. Everything was done. All they need now is a final report. Final report goes in, and they may ask questions. That's why I caution you that this may not be the end. We think it's the end.
So 24,500 for a final report?
No, it's not only a report, it's two. Close out the tank here.
Didn't we pay for that one last year?
No, you didn't. No, there's this, as I said, the problem with these environmental issues is they go in phases. You do one part, then they review it, and then they ask for another part, and it goes on and on and on, unfortunately. So, these are we can't control these things. This is the DEP asking different and additional things as time goes on.
So this 24,500 covers us in perpetuity for any additional reports?
I hope it doesn't. I would like to tell you.
If you
I
just
can tell
say
you-
yes, I'll vote yes.
I can tell you for sure it's going to end this one. And I'm 99% sure it's going to end the one over there.
It's going to end this one over here?
Yeah.
Because in your page 3 here, it says redevelopment of this site for alternative use could trigger requirements for further remediation. It's not part of the proposal.
That's in there to point out that all
Disclaimer.
this is only for the tank removals.
In other words, if they drill somewhere else and they find something, we're responsible.
Well, if you decide to do some of that property over there, this particular document doesn't exclude you from further investigations.
I see.
DEP likes to keep the door open.
That's right. And even though they've designated these LSRPs, unfortunately, they don't always take their advice.
I've got nothing more. Thank you.
Okay.
So do you think we could move on with taking the building down, and what would we have to put, a grass seed over there, or?
Well,
This is
it's,
separate, that's a whole separate, Councilman, that's a whole separate conversation.
that's right.
Right.
They're exactly.
But we got to get to that conversation somehow.
Well, okay, I think this goes a long way, though. This took 30 years to get them correct, and I think it's to your advantage. You'd have spent tens of thousands of dollars to have a pump and treat operation over there. And the early governing bodies had made those decisions, and it worked out.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
That's it, no more questions with that? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Menko. Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
Will the clerk please read Resolution 2024-279 by title?
Accepting resignation of borough employees.
What's the pleasure of council?
Move that this resolution be adopted. Second.
Motion made by Council President Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Potter. Is there any comments?
Yes.
Councilman.
There have been recent resignations, too, that I'm thinking of. Have there been exit interviews? And if not, why not?
Not to my knowledge.
Is there any reason?
I don't have an answer for that. Usually the exit interviews would be conducted by our BA and possibly, if present, the labor attorney.
Okay.
So I don't know if these folks were offered that opportunity and respectfully declined, or what the situation was.
Okay.
But this resolution comes as a recommendation of our labor attorney to formalize that when someone's no longer in the employ of the borough, such that if in the future there's any ambiguity as to pension payments or retirement funds owed, or when health benefits terminated or start, this solidifies it officially. Since we hire them by resolution, we should be accepting the resignations by resolution as well.
I'm just a little concerned, there's a large amount of people on here. I think there's, what, 16 or something on here? That's a lot of people. This has never happened in Milltown before. Is it the market, or is it a combination of things?
If I were to throw a dart at the wall, I would say a lot of it has to do with pay.
Councilman, Councilman Collins, did you receive the email from Monica from this morning showing all the letters or the notices of the separations?
We got it
where
right
the
here.
individuals indicated why they were leaving the borough?
Yeah, I just got this afternoon, tonight, Fred, it's right here.
And you got a hard copy, correct?
Right. I don't know, I just consider, the cost that involves hiring new people is, expensive, and for the residents too.
Yes, sir. So, yes, we have had significant turnover, especially in finance. If you look at the list, we blew through 4 CFOs in 90 days. We've now lost the QPA. Some other key employees have left. And to go on Councilman Revelinsky's comments about, I'm not sure about the labor attorney, we didn't really talk to her about that, but Monica and I spent a lot of time this year, Council, in this year, going back, trying to backdate civil service, the camps folder. I get petitions from the pensions. I get from unemployment. People continue, and then we go back to their personnel file, and we have no idea when this individual left. You can't take somebody off of civil service unless you can put a date in there. You can make up a date, but it's not correct, because it goes to their pension, it goes to when they get hired again in another community, especially for pensions, when somebody applies for retirement, and I'm trying to duplicate his time here in the borough from 15 or 20 years ago before they transferred to another municipality or they went to the county. We're talking about somebody's pension, talking about somebody's money, because we don't have a record of when they actually left. And so we're trying to correct that with this.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, Fred.
So I got a question, shouldn't this information, to me, this is like a big bookkeeping move, which is fine. But isn't a lot of this information in our payroll records, in our payroll system, or not? Maybe I'm assuming that.
So they would have in the payroll system, remember that we've gone to Prime Point and we were at, I think we were in ADP before, and those,
Right.
those records don't exist. All right, but right now, it would be in the payroll system, but the resolution is cleaner. You take the resolution, you put it in the folder, and then it's done, other than digging back into the payroll system, looking for when the person actually left. Because remember, when they left, it may not be the day that they left. The payroll system may pay them vacation days, may pay them terminal leave, and that's not the day of their last service here in the borough.
No, I get it.
Okay, so the resolution is clean. It's not about the, it says they left on such and such date, not what the day was of their last check.
So our labor attorney recommended that we put this together?
No, we did this on our own. We did this for the one gentleman who left on a retirement, not on retirement, I had a separation agreement at the beginning of the year. Remember that gentleman left?
Right.
And then in our conversations with Jerry and other people trying to put this stuff together, we came up with this as an idea.
Okay.
But we wrote this resolution came out of the clerk's office, not from the labor attorney.
So why is Councilman Revelinsky
Well,
saying it came
Well,
from
he
the
had
labor
talked to
attorney?
the labor
Okay,
attorney,
you
and she
guys
probably
talked on
mentioned
this.
that previously, but
Okay.
I have not talked to her in weeks,
Okay.
so I wouldn't know.
When I spoke to the labor attorney about some of the turnover we've had, and we talked about exit interviews, she had recommended this to me as well. She said it's good practice to always accept the resignations, either whether someone's quitting or retiring, through formal resolution.
Yeah.
I can't account for how they handle it in the past, but now when somebody leaves, I take the file from finance, I take my personnel file in the clerk's office, I combine them, I put their separation date. But the problem that we're having is if I'm not here in the future, Fred's not here in the future,
Yep.
the people who follow us being able to find it and not going through the man hours that we're putting into trying to figure out when people left and why they left. So this is just
To make it easier going forward.
Correct.
Seeing no further comments, will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Menko.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
Will the clerk please read Resolution 2024-283 by title?
Authorizing award of contract under State Contract 20-TELE-01510, Spatial Data Logic, Dell Marketing LP, not to exceed $26,600.
What's the pleasure of council?
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Collins, second by Councilman Potter. Is there any comments?
Yes, the only question I had is this is for spatial data software. So is this for one department or is this for the entire borough, and who's mainly going to use this software? What is this going to do for the borough?
So this is the permit system in construction. Okay, we have an antiquated system up in construction, a lot of paper. This will allow us to digitize a lot of those building files.
Wonderful.
Up in the, so if you went up to construction and you looked at their boxes and boxes of files, Beth, to her credit, NVIDIA and the rest of them, they're confronted with, Councilman, if you will, plastic tubs
Yep.
of permits.
I've seen
that
them.
when they came in, they just got thrown in a tub.
Yep.
What should happen as we move forward is that when somebody pulls up the block and lot for, let's say, 39 Washington, every permit, every file, by that in this here, is right there online. We can find out when the last time the plumbing was inspected, one time, all that kind of stuff is done.
Beautiful.
We'll eventually be able to integrate other functions in the SDL, but right now it's predominantly for the construction permits and the property maintenance portion, again, tied to the block and lot.
Beautiful.
This was in the budget.
Yep.
It's taken us, excuse me, some months to get to this point. We were going through, to get it to the system, and went through attorney review, and then we lost the QPA, then we had to go back to the state, get it under a state contract, after we lost the QPA, so we lost some time in that. Now it's under state contract, so we don't have to worry about all that bid threshold and stuff like that.
I'm glad to see that this is something that we're moving forward on. This is something that the former BA and CFO and finance had talked about last year. Too much paper, need to digitize, and you need to get into the 21st century, so,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Do you know what the life of the software is, Fred?
What the
No.
what?
The life of the software?
Yeah, how long is this going to last?
This is like Edmunds, the software that we have for finance here. It's been around a long time. It does a very good job. GovPilot is its competition. I hate GovPilot. That's my personal opinion. Not anything different, but it's just a type of management software for blocks and lots. And, there are updates available, they'll update it like Edmunds or like your Microsoft at Home or your Word. As they get through different iterations, it's not like a hardware project where in 5 years the computer dies, you have to buy a new one.
There is an annual maintenance fee. I'm not sure if that's what you were
But
asking.
that was my next question. You're way ahead of
There
me.
is, if you look at the proposal, it's like the 5,500 or something like that. You pay to renew the licenses. This 26,600 is a one-time to bring it
One-time
in,
shot.
get it set up, import everything, train. And then I was actually, because I had to reach out to them to go under state contract because we lost the QPA. And when I spoke to them, usually it's only an annual contract, but I was able to get them to agree to include the last 2 months of this year in the price for free. So the contract doesn't end until the end of 2025, and then that's when we'll have to renew. And the 5 licenses, I think it's like 5,500 or 6, whatever it is in the proposal.
Right. Okay, thanks.
So that'll be an annual.
So Fred, I have another question that just came up to me. So when you talk about transition, are you taking all the history and bringing it over? Or are you just going from like day one and moving forward?
So up in construction, so the intent is that all that paper is
Okay.
going to be inputted into this software.
Beautiful.
As they move forward into the big, as they take those big plastic tubs of paper to then scan it into the block and lot files for those different pieces, for those different files.
Okay.
So there'll be, some of that'll be out there, but it'll be mostly digitized. The important part that this does for everybody is that the inspectors,
Yes.
okay, if they're out on the debt, or Marty's out there, or somebody's out there and they pull up the file, they'll have the documentation right there online
Yep.
on a,
Laptop.
eventually on a tablet or something like that, other than going back with notes, digging into the paper, finding out if the paper was there, they can pull right up and do it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Manco.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
Will the clerk please read Resolution 2024-285 by title?
It's going to be 284.
285.
It's going to be 285.
284 is
84
executive
was
session.
Executive session at the end, unless you're switching that one.
The executive session was going to be renumbered to 285, just keep it consistent. Resolution of the Borough of Middletown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, authorizing a personnel action.
What's your pleasure, council?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion made by Council President Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Potter. Is there any comments, any discussion? All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Manco.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
All right, we have reports. Council President Revelinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 10th, we had a finance meeting scheduled Unfortunately, due to some conflicts, only myself and their CFO were able to attend. Some early numbers here. Budget transfer, discussion for folks who don't know, we're allowed to transfer monies from one department or one budget item to a different budget item in November. So we're looking to introduce that resolution at the meeting in, the second meeting in October, so that those funds can be transferred expeditiously. It doesn't mean an increase, it's just moving money from one account to the other. We looked at the preliminary budget for 2025. I did not talk to the department heads yet for those. This was just basically across the board for salary increases, capital outlay, and things like that. One of the biggest impacts to the 2025 budget would be health benefits. Health benefits from the state are likely to go up 16.2%. So unless we shop elsewhere, our costs on health benefits are going to go up about $120,000. We also have the money from the Middlesex County JIF, of which we are no longer a part of. And it's likely that they'll adopt on the 24th, but we're estimating somewhere around $50,000 additional. So right there is $170,000. 1% of the borough's budget is $70,000. So when we say 0.5%, that's $35,000. So right there, we are over 2% increase just between health benefits and increased costs to the JIF, of which we're no longer a part of. One of the other things we talked about is getting off the drugs. Some of you might remember this discussion from years ago, how the borough takes money from electric and helps balance our budget. In 2022, that amount was $1,195,000. In 23, that was $1,175,000. I'm sorry, 23 and 24. And so next year, we're hoping that we only take $1 million out of that, because we've got a $1.1 million increase in electric coming, which led us to topic 2. By the end of the year, next year, we have to have an additional, let me just find the correct number here, bear with me. I believe it's around $675,000 in electric that we need to raise, which comes to about a 15% increase. That rate increase would start, well, we start having to pay the money on electricity used in June. But to lighten the blow, I would recommend doing the rate increase now so that it's not as catastrophic. If you were watching the council meeting before this, we talked at length about the increased cost of electricity, and that in 2026, those are expected to go up even further. And lastly, we started to touch on some of the water sewer issues. Thank goodness there was not a sunset clause in the June increase for that $150 per meter, because that will add about another $350,000 to the budget. However, starting with January 1st usage, it's anticipated we will still need an additional $588,000 to cover costs for the rest of 2025. I strongly encourage members of the Finance Committee to make every effort to come to a meeting, because time is a-wasting, and the longer we wait, the greater percentage increase will be, because the numbers don't change much. And I know I'm supposed to report on Ford Avenue, but I will let our borough attorney do that, just simply because I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and say too much.
I'll pick it up when I'm asked to
Appreciate that.
speak, Council President.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Collins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Milltown Electric Department, numerous streetlights were repaired and replaced. Line clearance was performed in several areas. Violet Terrace near the senior building was very overgrown. Extensive trimming was performed. Department members took a tree down on Williams Street that was in the wires. pole was struck in a wooded area on the turnpike. Repairs were made after the digger derrick truck is repaired. 2 large dying trees were removed on South Main near Hill Street. Several drops were replaced on several homes which had overgrown service changes. A porcelain cutout and lighting arrestor was replaced on a pole on Garver Avenue. Tree trimming was done at the park on East Joffrey Avenue. East Joffrey. Oh, yeah. Several electric meters were replaced and department members assisted the utility billing department in rereads and billing inquiries. Low-hanging phone lines and cable lines were removed in several locations. Exterior lighting repairs were performed at the municipal building. Water utility department. Along with the daily work and daily pump checks, the water and sewer department has the following report: replaced broken water valve on Desmond, replaced fire hydrant on Leonard, repairs were made to cutter blades on Church Street pump. Hydrant flushing will start 10:15 from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. daily until all hydrants have been flushed. And that's today. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Manco?
So regarding the Recreation Department, registration is open for late fall soccer clinics. The programs run for 4 weeks. They start 11/14 and is being held at Parkview School Gym. The Rec Department would also like to thank everyone who attended the 9/11 Candlelight Remembrance Service. It was a very touching night. All youth and adult programs have had really strong numbers and are having good seasons. Our Rec Department continues to be very strong in this town. The Rec Department also would like to thank everyone for coming out on Milltown Day. Despite the inclement weather, there was a great turnout, and they look forward to next year. The Adult Co-ed Softball League has 6 teams this season, and they're preparing for the big championship game, which will be held on Wednesday, October 23rd, which is next week. The musical theater and creative movement classes are working hard. They're learning songs from Beauty and the Beast and preparing for their mini production. That will take place on Tuesday, November 19th. Regarding the library, October 16th, there'll be a drop-in craft, and it is a Halloween-themed bat craft at 11 a.m., and an after-school movie matinee at 3 p.m. Featuring Hocus Pocus. There will be a houseplant swap on Saturday, October 19th from 12 to 2 p.m. There will be an adult yoga on Monday, October 21st, 9:15. Registration is required. On October 21st, from 6 to 7 p.m., children are invited to come to the library and choose a costume for Halloween. They do have some adult costumes as well. While supplies last, it's really nice. They're doing an exchange. You can turn in your old costumes as kids grow out of them and pass them along. Also on Monday the 21st, there will be a historical fiction author, Janice Robinson Daly, a presentation and discussion. Tuesday, October 22nd, Spooky Bingo and Pizza at 6 p.m. Pizza donated by Dusals. Wednesday, October 23rd, drop-in play starting at 10:30 until 12:30 p.m. Also on Wednesday, October 23rd, an after-school movie, matinee, Halloween-themed, 3 p.m., Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween. Thursday, October 24th, Craft Corner and Spooky Treats at 3 p.m. Saturday, October 26th, there is a fall harvest event featuring a touch-a-trunk, games, pumpkins, and snacks. There's also be a pumpkin pie contest. If you're interested in entering your pumpkin pie, please call the library at 732-247-2270. Monday, October 28th at 6 p.m., the Library Book Club featuring Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None books are available at the library for checkout. They now have 2 delivery services, the Little Learner Library Delivery and Limited Mobility Individuals Delivery Service. Please call the library for details. It does seem the library will be moving forward in the future with what is often termed a library of things, where they might have articles to loan and send out. So, more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ponzanski?
Sure. Good evening. I'm going to start with the DPW reports. They've installed a base for the new shed at the library, replaced curb and gutters on Highland Drive. Their shred day was a big success, and leaf bags are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3 o'clock. And I also hope the residents are happy with the road work that is completed from all of Main Street to Highland Drive and some other areas also. For the senior center, the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission will have a mobile unit located in the back of Milltown Senior Center on October 17th from 9 till 2 p.m. For more information, please call 609-292-6500 or contact njmvc.gov. We have several bus trips planned in October. These include Monmouth Kitchen, Ollie's, the Shrimp Box in Point Pleasant, Cracker Barrel, the Amish Market, Heart of Europe, and Camillo's. Please check the calendar for days and times. Please remember to register as soon as possible, as the bus can only fit 10 people. As with any activities/events, please sign up on the bulletin board at the Senior Center or contact Debbie Cuddy at milltownborough.com. We'll also have a presentation on breast cancer awareness on Thursday, October 24th at 12:30 p.m., presented by Right at Home Agency. After the presentation, there will be a rock painting and other crafts event. If you're interested, please sign up on the bulletin board. Also, the air conditioning unit, someone had brought up at the last meeting. The part it's still on order. It was ordered August 22nd, and Riley is doing the work. When the part comes in, it should be here any day. And for Milltown Historic Preservation Committee, I have received no updates, and this concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From the Milltown Police Department, for the month of September, the police responded to 1,290 calls for service. During this period, the police conducted 98 radar details in numerous locations, made 463 motor vehicle stops, and investigated 14 motor vehicle accidents. 8 separate shoplifting arrests were made. Congratulations to Patrolman Thomas Martiello, who received a letter of commendation on September 27th for the following actions. On Thursday, September 26th, Patrolman Martiello responded to an active car fire near the Quick Mart store in People's Plaza. When Patrolman Martiello arrived, he found a parked vehicle with the fire burning in the trunk. Patrolman Martiello took a fire extinguisher from his patrol car and was able to quickly put the fire out. His quick action saved the vehicle from further damage and stopped the spread of the fire to any other property. On behalf of the Borough Council, we thank Patrolman Martiello for his efforts and congratulate him on the well-deserved commendation. Community involvement is crucial in maintaining a more secure environment. We strongly encourage you to assist us by reporting any suspicious persons, vehicles, or incidents that you may come across. Our non-emergency line is 732-828-1100. In case of emergencies, always dial 911. Concerns can also be submitted through the official Borough website under the Report of Concern tab. To note, for accurate and reliable information, please contact the Milltown Police Department directly. Do not rely on social media, as the information shared there can often be incorrect or misleading. Together, we can make our community a safer place. Thank you for your continued support. From the Milltown Fire Department, there were a total of 30 incidents for the month of September, which include 15 fire calls, 4 drills, 1 meeting, 6 special assignments, and 4 work details. On September 29th, 6 members of the Milltown Fire Department participated in the Tunnels to Towers 5K run and raised $1,650 for the foundation. Thank you to the following member participants: Jen Gertz, Henry Chang, Adam Young, Randy McCallie, Phil Palmer, and Milltown Fire Department photographer Rudy Peter. Members are needed. Candidates that are interested in joining the Milltown Fire Department are encouraged to stop down the firehouse on Monday evenings at 6:30 or email joinmilltownfire@gmail.com. From the Milltown Rescue Squad, in September, a total of 101 service calls were recorded. Year to date,
The cumulative number of service calls stands at 860. The squad had a great time at Milltown Day and looks forward to seeing everyone at the library's Fall Festival and Trunk or Treat on October 26th. And the squad will begin accepting applications for our winter onboarding process. Anyone who's interested in learning about joining the rescue squad or becoming an EMT should email recruitment@milltownrescuesquad.org to learn more. Applications for January 2025 need to be submitted by December 10th, and we're happy to answer any questions. And finally, from the Milltown 4th of July, save the date. The Milltown 4th of July Committee invites you to join us on Saturday, March 22nd at the American Legion Post 25 for our annual Celebrity Bartender event. Get ready for an exciting evening as we bring together familiar faces behind the bar and all in support for our beloved community's 4th of July celebration. Mark your calendars and stay tuned for more details. We can't wait to see you there for a night filled with fun and community spirit. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Zambrana?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first report is from the Environmental Commission. Our next meeting is Wednesday, tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, October 30th via Zoom at 7:30 p.m. And one of the topics of discussion will be moving forward with the community energy plan that was awarded to the borough. My Board of Health meeting, the last meeting was in person on September 24th at 6:30 p.m. in the round room in the back. All reports were provided through August and September at that time. And I'd like to read just a quick summary just to tell you folks in total. Year-to-date through September, the number of births in Milltown is 60. The number of deaths, 46. The number of marriages is 23. The number of remarriages were 10. Dog licenses year-to-date, this is a big number, 326. Cat licenses, 6. And year-to-date animal bites, only 3. Next Board of Health meeting will be scheduled in November. I believe it's the 25th. It'll be at 6:30 p.m. and it will be in person in the round room. Revitalization Committee. I'd like to thank everyone that took the time out to come to Milltown Day on the 28th, Saturday the 28th. Although we did have plenty of liquid sunshine, it was very good to see how many people actually showed up and supported all of the vendors that were there. I'd like to thank all the folks who volunteered to support and water the Main Street planters, which is basically where the net proceeds of Milltown Day goes to support the planters on Main Street. I'd like to thank the following Revitalization Committee members for all their hard work and planning this year to make Milltown Day a success. Those folks are in order: Rachel Freed, Dave Ariniak, James Peretti, Bunny Jascott, Sue Woland, and our committee chair, Andrea Vanderveer, who actually keeps us on tasks and makes sure that we have a successful year every year. Of course, Milltown Day doesn't happen without the great support of our DPW department, Ralph and his crew, our police department, Chief Johnson, our fire department, Chief Jolly and his assistant chiefs, and of course our rescue squad folks. A special shout out to Kim McGrath, our recreation director, for the great support with putting through registrations and sponsorships, mostly through Community Pass, but sometimes not, and making sure that she interfaced with finance to make sure that all funds were deposited. Another special shout out to the municipal clerk's office, Mary and Monica, for helping with the food licenses, especially those that came in the day before. And last but not least is our Human Relations Committee. Our last meeting was on Tuesday, October 1st via Zoom. We're looking into grant opportunities, funding opportunities that align with the HRC's goals, and that could facilitate some collaboration with other borough committees at our next meeting. And our next meeting is actually scheduled for the first Tuesday of November, which is Election Day, so that's probably not going to happen. We'll talk about maybe making that Thursday of that week if that works. And that concludes my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. For our attorney, Peter Vignola.
Just to touch on what Council President Revelinsky said, Ford Avenue is currently still in litigation despite the fact that a judgment has been entered on the value of the property. And because of that, I have very limited information to give because it is a fluid situation and it is litigation. And there is a settlement conference scheduled for the end of the month. So that's kind of where we stand.
Thank you. Mr. McClellan?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one item for you tonight. If you remember your last meeting, we discussed attempting to see what is available relative to a water meter installation project for the borough. We're pleased to report that we did find an active co-op where co-op is already established at the state level to install meters. There's some details we have to work out, which we'll be sending some information to the administrator, working with your chief financial officer, hopefully by your next meeting, report back as to where we are financially. But basically, this co-op would allow you to purchase meters and install them throughout the borough and activate the meters that you already have and install meters you already purchased and all at one time. So somewhere in $1 million, $1.5 million. We have talked to the funding agency, which is through DCA. You have $2 million, and it would be covered under that grant. We'll confirm all that with them and work with Fred again, hopefully by next meeting, hopefully provide some information. The one issue that we do have is this co-op ends November 13th, so we'd have to get it activated. So that's going to be a little bit tough lift if you have to introduce an ordinance, but we will get back to you by your next meeting and let you know what to do. Okay?
Thank you.
That's all we have.
Business Administrator, Brett Clark.
Mayor, I have only one item. I sent an email out previously to the council, whether or not you've seen it, formally requesting that the council consider a date change for the December council meetings. We have 2 meetings scheduled in December, the 9th and the 23rd. That meeting of the 23rd is a Monday. It's the Monday before Christmas and Christmas Eve. I'd ask the council consider going to 1 meeting in December. That would be the December the 16th. And all I would need is for the council to make a motion and a second and vote on it if they so desire, and then off we go. And that is all I have.
Borough Clerk.
Nobody's gonna.
Oh, we need to make the motion
do that
second now?
Right now?
No, you don't have to do it immediately, but I can't take action without council action.
Yeah, because we'll have to special notice it and everything else.
Yeah, that was a request from my stand. If the council is okay with it, then somebody would make a motion sometime down the line and then second it and vote on it and bingo.
I have no report.
Okay. Any old business? Does any member of the council have any old business to bring before council?
I do. I have 3 items. I'm going to discuss the water rates and the rise in water rates. In my opinion, the past administration, because of fiduciary responsibilities, should have disclosed that because of COVID supplementary funds, we're artificially suppressing your true cost of water usage. When these funds are exhausted, however, your rates will necessarily rise. This is where we are now. We have no federal help to cover the true rates. The cost to Milltown from New Brunswick, where the water comes from, has risen 3.5% this year and for the next 4 years per our contract. This is after no increases for at least 5 years. And Mr. Carr, this is for you. You're well-versed in budgets. I have some questions for you. This is not about you. Please do not be offended, as I do not mean to offend you. I have 3 issues here. The first is the paying out of the original BA CFO, almost $50,000 to walk away with no transition period, which has had a major impact affecting my first year on council. 2, the use of Suppley Clooney for most of the year, costing many tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars. This is because of turnover in the finance personnel. And also the mediation issue that had a beginning until very recently, seemingly no end, costing again many thousands of taxpayer dollars. We received no updates, no accounting for the time, or taxpayer dollars spent. There are other issues, but I will not bring up tonight. Mr. Carr, I'm not really looking for an answer from you. I have my own. I'm a gatekeeper here. Some people may think that money grows on trees. I do not. Lastly on this, I would like to speak about the American flag. I believe there's a misconception by groups of people that the flag does not represent them because it stands for an exclusionary government. The truth is that the flag stands for the people, each one of us, individually and united. It is uniquely us. It does not stand for government. It is ours. It is inclusionary, It means we support our neighbors, brothers, sisters, friends, and family. It stands for those Americans that came before us and those that will come after us. It doesn't stand for government, which could become tyrannical. The flag stands for us United citizens, like all of these great Americans helping the storm-ravaged South. We should be proud of our heritage and fly the American flag proudly as often as we can. I'll stop saying this when other countries decide to step up and help America when we are in need. That's it.
Councilman, if I may, Mayor, I'll address only one point, the payout to my predecessor. The borough administrator works at the pleasure of the governing body. Sometimes I was told that it's the pleasure of the governing body that they not work for a governing body. At that time, sir, those payouts, that 3 month of salary is set by state statute.
I understand that.
And you cannot do anything about it. The lack of transition in that office was a result of the council terminating my predecessor, and then I showed up 3 days later. That's just the math of it. That's not a personal opinion. That's the math.
Sure.
It would have been easier, but it wasn't, and we just deal with it. The transactions or the transitions in finance, we just have to come in every day, fight the fight, and then go home.
I appreciate that. Again, this is no
It's
personal.
not against me, I know that, but I just thought I could answer the first question. Supply Clooney, the legal bills, all the rest of that, those are all public record. They're all in the bill list. As the council has often requested copies of the bill list and the tabs, we have that all. And in fact, on those bills that come from the attorney, pick on Peter, because he's right there, you know, it tells you exactly what he's doing for his money.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Other old business? What are we doing with the Schwendeman cabin? We've got, I'm sorry, microphone.
Thank you.
Is that better?
You took away my thunder.
We've got, what, around $95,000 left minus the architect fee, so I'm guessing we're somewhere around $88,000 left.
No, sir. The county, if you check your emails, county did not pay back for the architect because it's not based on the original agreement we made with the council. The county back in 2016, there was a scope of work, which I included in that email, said we're going to do 5 or 6 things that were delineated based on the budget back in 2016. I think that's, yeah, 2016, maybe it was. When I submitted that invoice for the architect to the county, they said, this is not part of your scope of work, so we have eaten that number. I would probably say at the end of the day, we still have about $100,000 in that budget line, but again, it's a reimbursable grant. So if we were to spend any money on the Schwendeman cabin, we have to pay it up front and then get reimbursed.
I will say last year when we went down this path with the architect, I was told by your predecessor that the county was going to reimburse that she had contacted them and they were going to reimburse it. But
Yes, sir, they were, but we changed between the time that we...
neither here nor there, so.
We changed the scope of work for the architect between June, when we originally hired him, because I went back and looked, and to what he actually did. That scope of work, Council President, changed, which then he was not evaluating it for the use as a public space. He was evaluating it to see where we are today, and that changed the scope of work in the eyes of the county.
We're splitting hairs. Okay. The question remains, what are we doing? Everyone wants to save the cabin and not admit that it's going to need a tremendous amount of money. I drove by it today. I see a ton of overgrowth, which is clearly when the leaves are going to fall, you'll see a cabin again through something other than just the driveway. It would be my recommendation that we spend some money now to clean up the grounds over the winter time so that it doesn't grow back to be a complete mess in the spring. And at least we're making some progress to start determine what to do, because I don't think we're going to get any demolition or reconstruction or anything of
tremendous value out of what we have for that $100,000. Originally, we looked at this 2 or 3 years ago. Ralph had gotten some quotes to redo the roof, the deck, and the windows was $88,000. And that was just for the roof, deck, and windows. Now, obviously, the deck probably wouldn't be needed, but, you know, we should probably move forward with doing something, or else, you know, what costs $1 today is gonna cost $2 tomorrow. Might as well make some progress. Second on old business, we didn't adopt the water rates at the last meeting, or I should say before October. So the rates that were in effect in June remain in effect for water consumption through December. If anybody wants to address the elephant in the room, being the cost of water and the increased costs of operation, I really suggest doing so expeditiously before December, because it needs to be introduced and adopted before January 1st in order to bill January 1st consumption at those new rates.
If I may, regarding the Swinderman, I agree that we need to do something. I even think we need to start looking at taking the building down, if that is part of the skill, reimbursable under that grant. It does worry me that from the initial presentation of that $100,000 in 2016, however you want to figure out your math of inflation, we probably had $20,000 more to work with had we done something then. And every year that this conversation comes up, and every year that nothing happens, that money loses a minimum of 3% with standard inflation. And I'm all for moving forward, clearing it, turning it into something. Whether it has a building in it or not is rather inconsequential. The buildings that are there don't seem to be big enough or updated enough to be useful for the purposes that I've heard. And if nothing else, a clear space is probably better in the long term. Certainly, the long-term idea of safety and upkeep, just to keep it safe enough for us to not have action, is slowly and surely going to cost us 10, 15 grand a year over the next 5 years, 10 years. We need to figure something out. The high cost of inaction.
So we can, if I may, Councilman,
Thank you.
if you're referring back to my initial email about the cabin and the non-reimbursable of the architect, we can change that scope of work. Okay? We initially said we're going to do a number of items, and we enumerated them, and we put a dollar amount on it back in the day. If there was a conversation about the Schwendeman subcommittee, if you will, okay, or the group of members who are going to talk about moving forward. If that desire of the council is to change that scope of work to get then to eventually be reimbursed, then we can petition. We should put our thoughts together, get it to the county, and say, look, we were originally going to do this. Now I would like to do this. Okay, and then have request a change of that scope of work. I'll just use example, not to be drawn and quartered, but let's just say we decide to knock it down. And we're going to take that money and repurpose it for demolition. That's a change in the scope of work. If the county approves that, they'll pay for it. If they don't, they don't. But if we're going to do something different than that original agreed upon scope of work from 2016, we need to come online and tell the county this is what we want to do, or we will not be reimbursed. That's just the math, that's just the math. I'm not talking about, visions and what we wanted to do. I'm just talking about if we want our money back, either we stated a scope of work or we change it.
Does the council have any generic opinion about doing that, about petitioning the county to change the scope of work?
I mean, I would say that we need a consensus on what's to be done there. I think, everything I've heard is turn it into a nature center, which, can be anything from the Manasquan Reservoir, if you've ever been down there.
Beautiful
to
place.
a log cabin in the woods that's one room that even if you were to hold class trips, you'd probably have 5 kids in there at one time, with the rest standing around. So I think it behooves us to at least get some clarity, but also understand what we can spend some monies on, because I was also informed last year that, even cleaning up the grounds, landscaping-wise, improving the area, the walking area around the pond, removing the existing fencing would be considered facility improvements, which would fall under the grant monies. So again, maybe we don't touch the building for a little while and clean up the grounds so that we can start generating some more ideas, but, we've had this grant since 2016, we're going on 8 years and nothing's been done. And nobody's put pen to paper. I know when Mayor was here, she had made it pretty clear that this is now a borough facility, so it falls under the DPW to oversee the maintenance and protection of this building. That's not to say that only DPW can come up with ideas, but at least that would be the realm if we were to have it fall within a specific department. Again,
So,
I'm not gonna be here next year. Just saying, I would either, drop and flush or move on.
So if I may, why don't Fred, if I can get your help on some of this as well. Why don't we take a look at the scope of work? I'll take the lead on taking the scope of work and transfer it into a change order, for want of a better word. Scope of work, maybe get some feedback from the folks at the Environmental Commission. Keeping their, options, it's not gonna be a nature center, I get it. But I'd be interested in, when you talk about demolition, are we talking about the entire site? Or we're talking about the attachment to the log cabin?
Councilman, those were all great ideas, but, in the 11 months I've been here, you can't go out for bid with a piece of paper that says, build nature center.
No, I'm not
But
saying.
I gotta have specifics.
Yeah.
And we have to have the council have a consensus. If the Environment Commission or the council or the the subcommittee of the council, somebody bring back to the council, get a consensus on how we wanna move forward on the cabin. And if knocking it down is not an option, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just, we need some guidance to go back and say, we're gonna do this or we're not gonna do that.
Roadmap.
A roadmap.
Yeah, get it.
The RF,
Councilman Collins, it's like the Public Works garage over there. Without specific tasks that we can bid out, we can't do a thing.
the RFP that was put out last year prior to Fred and I arriving here was for a public meeting space, and that's what was awarded to that architect, and then that whole scope somehow got changed, and that's why we're where we are now.
Realistically, to do anything, there's a very small budget. A real budget would be bonding, would be having a bond for a larger amount of money where you can have what you may desire. And in my opinion, it's not realistic to bond. We handled the majority of people in town, where the majority of people want something done there. I mean, I think, say, people at the senior center, struggling families, do they want this cabin redone? Aside from the family and followers or friends, I don't believe this makes sense. It's going to be very expensive. Anybody who doesn't think so, they need to look into it realistically. Look into work on your own home if you're going to do an addition on your own home. You look at the grounds. I mean, it's a wetlands. There's a lot of negatives to it. It can be a great park, not necessarily with the structure there.
Again, Councilman, I agree with what you're saying from a math standpoint, but it requires an enumeration of what the council wants to do. Okay? Can't go out for bid, can't get an estimate from the architect unless he's down there with a clear vision and a clear task of when he comes back to the council and says, here's how, I've done my homework, and here's what it's gonna cost you to rehabilitate this building to a public meeting space. Laundry list. And I think if you read that report, he's talking, like you alluded to, over $1 million, just to start.
So what you're saying is we should turn this back to the DPW and let them, determine what falls where?
DPW, Ralph doesn't want the building. I mean, he's not here, but.
Oh, I mean, that's who said he was gonna maintain it, so.
Well, they're currently working on it now. I mean, Councilman Revoluski talked about, getting, Ralph trying to get, how much it's gonna cost for windows, how much it's gonna cost to fix the roof, things like that, just getting some ballpark estimate figures.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is a public contract, all right? If we have somebody come in to fix the roof, okay, we're gonna need more than one quote. You're gonna need 2 or 3 quotes, or so 2 people to walk away. If you get somebody to come in and do the windows, you're gonna have to get somebody to come in and say, I'll fix the windows for X amount of money, quote, and then probably 2 or 3 more, since we all know that if you fix windows in your house, you can't buy windows, cheaply. And there's a lot of windows there. I walked around the cabin, I looked at it. I mean, I saw a nice old building and a lot of bullfrogs in the pond, but we have to come up with a vision. That's what I'm saying. Please, for Ralph and I and all of us, decide what you want to do, articulate that vision so that we can then either move forward or not.
When can we do that? I can vote right now.
So I would like to now comment, since I was heavily involved with it since the beginning. So we've had 3 Eagle Scout projects that cost the borough $0 to have a lot of work done there, and we installed all new split rail fence around the pond. We secured that. We did a lot of work removing bamboo and everything else around the facility, and then the scouts were told they were no longer permitted to do anything on the property, and that's been going on for years. So I think instead of just saying you got to put your hand out for everything, there's other options, there's other groups, there's other communities that have similar situations with facilities that they own or that are borough-owned facilities. Just like I know South River just donated a facility, or somebody donated a facility to the Girl Scouts in South River, and they actually reached out to me for assistance with their facility, for our volunteerism to help with their facility as well. So there is a lot of groups and entities that are willing to help out in that case. Once all the paperwork is signed off and all the insurance vouchers and everything else are signed. But there is other options besides just, quickly doing something. But as I was discussing with Mr. Vignolo, a committee will be formed to have a logical discussion and vision for you, Mr. Carr, and we will be getting to that. So we'll get there.
But my contention, what I think, it seems like those buildings just are not feasible to be any kind of, $1 million. That's a lot of volunteering.
Let's not come to a decision until we have
Yes.
plans in front of us.
Correct.
So,
Sure.
and so that's just my suggestion.
I just feel bad. We were, told in no uncertain terms that, the architectural fees were covered under the grant. And now it's like, now they come back and say, well, sorry.
Again, the RFP that was put out and that the architect responded to, the scope was changed this year when you guys did a resolution changing what he did and authorizing different work than was initially put out.
I see.
So,
Wish we would have known.
Mr. Carr, can we have something that we could put out to the residents to see if they have an interest in this?
You have a video, maybe a video of the council meeting where we talk about it, and we ask people to send in their comments.
Well, I don't know if the subcommittee of the mayor's forming is
I
going to
think that,
involve residents.
I think the conversation, to go back to echo what the clerk said, is that, the mayor's going to form a subcommittee, and, that's when they go out and solicit proposals or ideas or groups to come in and become the Friends of the Schwendeman Cabin, 501c corporation that fundraises and fixes it and has a vision or whatever. But yes, there'd be lots of, ways of people coming online and saying, yes, I'm interested. I mean, they've come to the meetings, some people have come to the meeting and asked us to preserve it, but, eventually, as the mayor has alluded, the subcommittee of the council has to come back and provide direction, whomever that is.
I have two for old business. I had requested an update several months ago about what's going on with the Main Street Firehouse. There were conversations about whether we were selling it, whether we were leasing it, or what was going on with that. And I was just wondering if someone can provide an update as to the status of what's going on with that. Because it's another borough building that just sits, and we could be doing something with that, whether it's lease, whether it's sell, but we need to do something with that. And Mr. Vignola, the title search for the property between the post office and the borough building, is there a status update on that yet?
The only status I have is that when the title came back, there was some question over ownership. I reached out to the individual whom we believe to be the property owner, which was Mr. Berger, and I have not received a response from him despite my requests. As you're all aware, Mr. Berger is also the property owner involved in the Ford Avenue case, so he may have a couple other things on the front burner that he's attending to, other than our small piece of property we're trying to get out some information on.
Okay.
But while I have your attention, another option might be with respect to your initial issue, which was what to do with the South Main Street Firehouse. Perhaps a committee might be useful there as well, because I know you've asked the question before, and we don't have an answer to that. So maybe getting a group of people together to come up with some ideas might be beneficial. I would just merely note that the property on which the South Main Street Firehouse sits is about as wide as the firehouse. The parking lot belongs to the property next door, which the Historic Committee has their building on. So at some point, and I know it's been discussed in the past, some subdivision of that property may be necessary in order to make sure there is some parking for the South Main Street Firehouse site. Otherwise, you're going to give someone a building and then just create some parking issues over there where there isn't a lot of parking. So just some things to take into consideration, but a committee might be useful for that as well.
Okay. And when we subdivide property, we have to go in front of the planning board as well?
We can discuss the process on that.
Thank you, sir.
Good question.
Any new business?
Yep, I have, Mr. Mayor, I have two public safety items. The first one, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but unfortunately, we have a crossing guard shortage, which means when the crossing guard does not show up, the police department has to put a police officer on that where the crossing guard's supposed to be. It's an issue, obviously, because it's a lot more money. We're paying a lot more money for our police officers to man crossing guard positions. And but the good news is there is a company that we can outsource to that will take care of the crossing guard shortage. Chief Johnson has reached out. He's provided us a few of them. I know he's provided to Mr. Carr. We can get that information and send it out to the council. If it wasn't done already, I'm not sure if it was provided already. However, I can let you know, out of the 27 days of school we have so far, 70% have been covered by our police department. So it's an issue, and we need to look into resolving. So I would ask the council that we look into it. I don't know if we go by resolution or we just look into the next meeting with all the information and look into that. Does anybody have any questions?
So I spoke to Chief Johnson about this about a month ago during school pickup. Or at least I was at school pickup and I was on the phone with him, and he had indicated the same. However, the only difference is that am I too far from the microphone?
You are.
Sorry. Right now we pay around $19 an hour for a crossing guard, and this company would charge us about 30. So either way, whether we're paying police officers or we're paying more to an outside company to provide coverage, it's gonna cost us a lot more money that we have budgeted for that line item, so.
But in the long run, it's also taking our police officers.
I'm just saying it's gonna cost more money. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna be more money for the outside service, it's gonna be more money for the police department if they have to cover it. The only benefit also is that if this company can't provide coverage, they pay our officers. Even though they still only charge us the $30 an hour, they have to pay our officers for whatever that rate is.
So we'll have to look at the rates. I mean, there are a couple companies, I don't know which one you looked at, which one he had, but there were a few that he looked at. So, like I said, we'll Mr. Carl will send it out to everybody to take a look at.
Have we looked at perhaps increasing the schedule for crossing guards?
The issue is we have a shortage of crossing guards. So the schedule of crossing guards, meaning, I'm not sure what you mean.
Pay rate. And I think we have a shortage because it's the pay. And it's, 4 hours a day? 2 hours a day.
So I don't know what the reason of the shortage is, but we just know we have a shortage. So we could reach out to the chief and find out if the pay or the schedule would increase it. But I can reach out to him about that, so.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. The second issue we have is we've been getting a lot of complaints about the speed on Main Street. Right now, it's currently at 30 miles an hour, and there's been requests, and we're actually looking into, I know the mayor and mayor's actually met with the mayors of North Brunswick and East Brunswick, our adjacent towns, to look into agreeing to lower it to 25 miles an hour. All the streets in town are 25, so it's just something that the council will need to look at. We can't do it because it's not our road. We'd have to petition to the county in order to get that. So we would just ask that the council be in agreement for us to further look more into this.
Aye.
I actually discussed that with Mr. Vignolo, and he said he recommended what we would do is create a resolution in support of it, and then we can send a letter to the county requesting that the speed limit be lowered. And correct me if I'm...
No, that is exactly what I had indicated, Mr. Mayor. I thought you would question whether you sending a letter might be beneficial, and I indicated that the letter would certainly get the attention of the county commissioners, but if a resolution of the council supporting that action came along with it, it would probably have that much more weight.
So you'll draft that for the next meeting?
Well, if the council would like me to, Ms. Orlando.
I'm good with it.
I'm in favor of that as
I
well.
mentioned it last year, so it'd be great.
Now, Peter, could we limit, the areas where it was 25, or would we have to do the whole street as 25?
Councilman Collins, you wouldn't do anything. You would have a request for the county to do something, but I mean, given the fact that the road itself isn't a terribly long road, trying to fluctuate the speed on Main Street over, a mile and change would probably be, number one, difficult for the police to enforce, and be confusing to your motoring public.
What is it coming in off Route 1? Is that 35? 30.
I think, yeah,
Is it
Milltown
30?
Road is 35.
Yeah. Did you discuss with the mayor in North Brunswick about, is he going to request to reduce that down to 30 perhaps, so that people already know coming off to start slowing down? I think some of the complaints I've heard are people coming in right off of the Route 1 corridor and just flying right through town until they hit that first bend and saying, oh, maybe I should slow down.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that was actually 40 originally, and they lowered it, but I can discuss that with them.
I think Dunham's Corner is a county road, if I'm not mistaken, right? And they were able to get that successfully lowered because of all the accidents?
Sure, and Riva was lowered, and Fresh Ponds and Dutch were all lowered. I also discussed about the speed, the bollards for Main Street and Ford Avenue, so halfway on Main Street Bridge going up to Ford Avenue, to put them up, to keep cars from running up and cutting in to continue down Main Street. So it would reduce that rush, that mad rush of cars speeding from the light, taking off at the light to beat cars. Any more new business? No? Okay. Open to the public. The public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. The council would respect the public's time by refraining from any comment until the speaker has finished. It should further be noted that this is the public comment portion of the meeting, not structured as a question and answer. Please state your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. Just a reminder about the 5-minute rule with council.
Margaret O'Donnell, 89 Couthow Avenue. In August of 2020, the governor signed legislation S 855 that would take effect on January 1st of 2021. That legislation eliminated the title of freeholder from public office. At the last 2 meetings I've attended here in the borough chambers, different members of the council have used the term freeholder in a derogatory manner. And I just want to remind everyone that that has been removed from government lexicon for several years, and I can cite some of the reasons that are part of the legislation, and some of the quotes from the officials who made those decisions. We have an obligation to ensure that governance in New Jersey is inclusive and representative of the tremendous diversity of our great state. Amid a national reckoning to re-examine vestiges rooted in structural racism, this action will eliminate the use of the term freeholder in government, a title that is an outgrowth of a time when people of color and women were excluded from public office. So I would appreciate if the council would take these remarks under consideration and not use terms like freeholder going forward when you should know, because it's been several years, that those are county commissioners. Those county commissioners do fine work. We rely on them. They have maintained things like a AAA bond rating that we tap into. So in addition to respect for people like me, who have been able to hold public office because of changes to those laws, let's be respectful of the people that we go and ask for money from. Thank you.
No one else? Okay, close the public portion of the meeting. Council comments. Is there anybody from council that has any comments?
Sure. If anyone else wants to speak first, they may. I'd like to thank Margaret for pointing out I was one of the offenders. Yes, I was. And I'll say what I need to say. No offense taken, no offense given. I have a bit of a sense of humor. You may not see it, and that's how I use that term. And I'm not actually, yes, I am the biggest partisan here. I'm partisan for the people of Milltown. Now I'd like to read this. I was very saddened by the 2 recent storms that devastated 10 states. mostly in the South, especially Florida and western North Carolina. I have 2 siblings and their families that live in Florida and Georgia, and they were very affected by the disasters, as were many. The human and animal suffering were immense. The loss of lives, livelihoods, homes, possessions, immeasurable. Natural tragedies do not discriminate between race, creed, color, or sexuality. This was equal opportunity destruction. The lasting pain and suffering will be for generations. At the same time came help from all walks of life, wanting to help their fellow American brothers and sisters, their neighbors. Thousands of private businesses, large and small, gave and still give with generous hearts. Thousands of linemen, truckers, construction crews are helping to get the devastated on some kind of footing as soon as they are able. There are many volunteer organizations, such as Samaritan's Purse, the Red Cross, the Cajun Navy, helicopter companies, etc., bringing hope and supplies to many suffering and displaced. They are a godsend. By the way, I have donated in case anyone would like to question me. I am in awe of tremendous outpouring of American spirit and selflessness on display in these storm-ravaged and flooded areas. It is about time that the American taxpayer dollars go to help suffering, struggling, and displaced American citizens. I'm done.
Anybody else? No? I have no comments. Will the clerk please read Resolution 2024-248 by title?
Resolution 2024-285, authorizing entering executive session, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss litigation, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires that confidentiality, then the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the public be excluded from this meeting.
You have heard the reading of this resolution. Are there any questions? Will the clerk, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Council President Revlinsky, seconded by Councilman Potter. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Revelinsky.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Menko.
Aye.
Councilman Poznanski.
Aye.
Councilman Potter.
Aye.
Councilman Zambrana.
Aye.
Are we going to stay here since it's the end of the meeting? Yeah.
And we don't expect action to be taken.
We're going to stay in here.
Oh, yeah, I've been checking it too, but yours is quicker.